is the 22nd Sunday of Ordinary Time, and we're back in Mark. For the past few weeks, we've been visiting with the Gospel of John, but now we're back in Mark. And today, in our Gospel, the Pharisees are challenging, and the scribes are challenging Jesus about the behavior of his disciples. They're not washing their hands, as is recommended, I guess, by their tradition. It's not part of the divine law that you find in the Torah. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about where the laws come from and how they are seen by the Jews of that time and even Jewish people today. The laws and precepts and observances, in our first reading, you can see that they're being given by Moses for the people. And he says, "For what great nation is there that has God so close to them as the Lord our God is close to us, and cares whenever we call." That's not a direct quote. And he's basically handing on these laws so that the people, when they move into the land that God has set aside for them, they will become a people. It will shape who they are, just as the time in the desert shaped who they were. The time when they've gone into the promised land, they will become a people, and that's what observing the laws is all about. Today, Jewish people also follow the laws. I grew up in New York and was familiar with people of the Hasidic Jewish sect, and you'd see them walking around with headscarves for the women that covered their heads and the long tassels on the clothing for the men and their beards. So the Pharisees are challenging Jesus on these laws, and Jesus gets kind of angry, and he says, "Well did Isaiah prophesy about you hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but not their hearts. Their hearts are far from me. In vain they shall worship me, teaching as doctrines human precepts. You discard God's commandments and cling to human tradition." So what Jesus is doing is making, pointing out that there's a difference between the divine law that's put forth in the Pentateuch and the law that these scribes and Pharisees follow about cleaning their hands and also cleaning other things like cups and beds and that kind of thing. I was a campus minister. And my students they kind of made up their own rituals, which I thought was very sweet. Before Mass would start, they would set up an iconostas and invite the saints to come and pray with us. They would walk around the chapel with incense and pray for each other. They even went to the point of putting on their phones an alarm at 9 o'clock, because we prayed together at 9 o'clock on Sunday night. So all the rest of the days of the week, they would put their alarm and give them a moment to take pause and to remember their friends in the Catholic community and pray for them. And I thought that was really sweet. As time went on, students graduate and things change and rituals sort of drop off. And there was a point at which that we had a visitor come to the Sunday night Mass and saw all the rituals that the kids were doing, and she said that it was very pious, but not necessary. And I said, for them now it is necessary. It's their time. They're just coming into their adult faith, not that given by their parents to their children. So, and they have some of the rituals they've kind of kept in family situations and stuff, and some have faded away. And so that just exemplifies the positive nature of ritual. Ritual is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But it's when you take ritual to an extreme that it's problematic. And that's what Jesus is trying to show. There's another part in the Jewish law that, you know, we don't really pay attention to too much, but it really does filter into the Christian tradition as well, is that the law was made to be a witness, to help the people be a witness to the nations. That's what I think it's Moses. Moses is saying when he gives the people the law and he puts it out in front of them, you know, what God is as great as ours, that all the other nations are going to see this God. So there's a witness part of that. And I equate my Christianity, and particularly as a Benedictine sister, as our tradition, our rules are given to us, are given to us by God, and handed down from generation to generation to have a witness. So we follow the gospel, the things that Jesus has said and taught. And in the Benedictine community and our oblates, we follow the rule of Benedict as an extension of that. It doesn't replace it, it just extends it. So that when people meet us and we talk to them, they know something is different about us. They're not sure what, but there's something different. And so that's part of what Jesus is trying to explain to the Pharisees. He is frustrated with them because they are taking human traditions, human precepts, and putting them in the place of actually caring for people. So he talks about what is important to them. Hold on a second. They're following precepts and they're making judgments, and that their witness is diminished to the nations. So, you know, the Romans are there and they see these people doing all of these ritual things, but then there are other things that they're doing that don't speak. And those other things that you do that don't speak as a witness for God really speak as a witness against God. So Jesus gives them a list of the things that they are doing that, you know, and he's not directing it at one Pharisee, he's directing it to the people overall. He called the people, the crowds, to come over and listen to him. So he says that, you know, you have evil thoughts, unchastity, theft, murder, adultery, greed, malice, deceit, licentiousness, envy, blasphemy, arrogance, and folly. And all of these behaviors, not only do they diminish the person that is acting out of these, but also it diminishes the people around them. And ultimately, it diminishes the community. God's goal is to give us well-being. That's what, if you go to the root of the word salvation, in the Latin, it means to give well-being. And so that's what Jesus is there for. He's to give well-being. He's to call the people back to the laws and to the observances that God has implemented, those divine laws that build up a community, that care for each other. And God is a God of mercy. God is a God of justice. You're going black. Okay. God is a God of mercy and justice. And so the actions that the Pharisees are most interested in are not the ones that build community. And their judgment around that is what diminishes community. In order to have both true justice and true well-being, we must kind of check with ourselves and take responsibility for what we're doing. Tradition and ritual have their place and do not do a great deal to keep our hearts focused on God. What Jesus is interested in that particular moment is helping people to recognize that their own behavior is what thwarts God's justice and the well-being of others as much or more than themselves. Our witness as persons in communities of faith needs to be authentic. It needs to convey that God really cares, that God really seeks justice, that God cares for all of creation, the good,